A thread between Queens Chapter 1, the midnight needle Mira Bellandi, had sewn wedding dresses for people who did not love each other, and mourning clothes for people who did not know how to grieve. But this was the first time she had pushed a needle through a suit, while the woman wearing it was still blue. "Hold still," Mira said. Seraphina Russo watched her through the dressing room mirror. Tall, severe, and pale beneath the amber lights, she sat with her white jacket open and a blood-soaked strip of silk clinging to her collarbone. A pistol rested beside an untouched glass of. On the table, a digital clock counted down from 23 minutes. Nobody told the head of the Russo family. The two guards near the door shifted uneasily. Seraphina did not. 10 minutes earlier, Mira had been locking her small tailoring shop when a black sedan stopped across the. Elena Viscari had stepped from it wearing a dark coat and the expression of a woman who never repeated her. She had shown Mira a silver button stamped with the Russo. "Our tailor disappeared during tonight's attack," Elena had said. "You restored a veil auction piece without leaving a visible needle mark. Bring your tools." Mira had managed one call before Elena took. "Nico, lock the apartment," she had told her younger brother. "Open the door for no one." "What happened?" "I have an emergency client." "You sound frightened." The car door had opened beside. "I'm not." The call ended before Nico could challenge the. Now Mira stood between the knees of the most dangerous woman in Bellavena, with one hand beneath the torn fabric of her jacket. She had cleaned the shallow cut across Seraphina's upper chest and temporarily closed it. The injury was long enough to look terrible, but not deep enough to prevent Seraphina from sitting upright and terrifying everyone around her. "The medical thread," Mira said. One guard started toward her. "I asked you to leave." He looked at Seraphina. Mira followed his gaze. "I cannot repair her while two men watch me open her shirt." A silence fell that seemed to press again. Then Seraphina said, "Out." Both men obeyed. Elena remained by the door. Mira threaded the needle. "I need more light." Elena moved a lamp without being. Seraphina's mouth curved by a fraction. "You make demands easily. You summoned me because your usual tailor vanished, and you need to appear unharmed in." Mira glanced at the clock. 21 minutes. "That makes my demands temporarily valuable. At least you understand temporary power. I understand deadlines." Mira opened Seraphina's collar farther. Beneath the blood, the woman's skin was warm and marked by older scars. Mira slid 2 fingers under the silk so the needle would not catch flesh. Seraphina's gaze remained on her reflection. "Are you trembling because of the blood?" she asked. "Or because you are touching me? I am afraid that people with guns dislike being pricked by needles. That wasn't my question. It was the answer you received." Mira worked down the damaged seam. Her pulse was too fast, but her hands remained steady. That was what hands were for. Fear belonged in the chest, anger in the jaw. A needle received only certainty. The floor beneath her shoe was slick with a drop of blood. She shifted, and Seraphina's gloved hand closed around her hip. Mira stopped. "If you want me to save this suit, don't make my hand slip." Seraphina removed her. For one breath, the absence of it felt more intimate than. Mira adjusted her stance. When Seraphina placed her hand against Mira's hip again, it was lighter, a question rather than a restraint. Mira resumed sewing. "Why must you appear before the council tonight?" she asked. 3 of my shipping routes are being watched. If my rivals believe I'm injured, they will test each one before sunrise. So this suit is armor. All clothing is armor. That depends on who made it." This time, Seraphina smiled, although nothing in her eyes softened. Mira repaired the outer seam with a curving stitch her grandmother had made her practice until her fingers. Crescent, crossing line, hidden knot. She had never understood why Mira Bellandi had forbidden her to use it in front of customers. Seraphina caught her. The movement was so quick that the needle stopped a hair above her skin. "Who taught you that stitch?" "My grandmother. Her name, Mira Bellandi." "What was her name before Bellandi?" Mira looked at her in the mirror. Seraphina's expression had changed. Not fear exactly. Recognition sharpened by calculation. "I don't know." The mirror exploded. Seraphina dragged Mira down an instant before a bullet passed through the place her. Glass rained across. Mira struck the floor beneath Seraphina's body. The scent of blood and gunpowder filled her mouth. Seraphina drew the pistol from the table and fired twice through the broken window. East Tower, she said into a hidden microphone in her upper roof. Seal every floor. Nobody leaves. There was no panic in her voice. Her orders came cleanly, each one aimed at a different part of the emergency. Elena overturned the table and took cover behind. Another shot struck the wall. Inner shutters, Seraphina ordered. Steel panels descended over the windows. Only then did Mira realize her palm was pressed against Seraphina's wound. Fresh blood seeped between her fingers. You tore the closure, Mira said. Seraphina looked down at her. Their faces were inches apart. Broken glass glittered in Seraphina's dark hair, and her gaze dropped briefly to Mira's mouth. An assassin just shot at you, Seraphina said. And you are bleeding on my hand. I was bleeding before. Not this much. Mira tore a clean strip from the discarded lining and pressed it to the cut. Seraphina did not flinch. She watched Mira with an unsettling intensity, as if competence were a language spoken by two. Elena received a message through her ear. Shooter is down. One of ours reached the opposite roof. Alive? Seraphina asked. No. Then search him twice. Seraphina rose and offered Mira a hand. Mira ignored it and stood on her own. The video meeting began 12 minutes. The camera showed Seraphina from the waist up in the repaired white suit. No blood was visible. Her voice carried through the dressing room while she dismantled 3 rumors, reassigned a disloyal supervisor, and made it clear that any attack on Russo territory would cost its author far more than it gained. She never raised her voice. By the end, the men on the screen were speaking more carefully than when they began. Mira understood why Bellavena feared her. When the call ended, Elena returned with a clear evidence. Inside were photographs of Mira leaving her shop, buying groceries, walking beside Nico, and visiting her grandmother's grave. The oldest photograph was dated 3 weeks earlier. Beneath them was a typed order. Kill the Merino heir before she is awake. Mira looked from the word. You arranged this. If I wanted to keep you here, I wouldn't need theater. Men with power always think locks are more honest than lies. Something cold moved behind Seraphina's eyes. Merino was a family. 30 years ago, it was erased. And now you expect me to believe I belong to it? I expect you to explain a stitch that should have died with them. I can't. Then whoever sent that assassin knows more about you than you do. Mira reached for Elena. My phone. Elena did not move. Give it to her, Seraphina said. Nico answered on the first ring. Mira? There's a car across the street. It's been there for 20 minutes. Don't go home. I'm already 2 blocks away. Go back to the theater. Use the rear entrance and stay where people can see you. A security monitor came alive on the wall. Street cameras showed the Bellandi apartment building. An older woman in a gray coat stepped from the unfamiliar. She entered the building using her own key. A black ring gleamed on her hand. Elena said, Catalano. Mira tightened her grip on the phone. Nico, run. The screen went dark. Seraphina was already issuing orders. Elena, get a team to the theater. Not the apartment. Use municipal routes, not Russo channel. Someone inside this house sold the dressing room location. Mira started toward the door. Seraphina blocked her path. Move. No. My brother is out there, and Octavia Catalano may be waiting for you to lead her to him. You don't get to decide whether I help him. Tonight, I decide who leaves this estate. Mira stared at her. You saved me once. That does not purchase me. Seraphina reached toward her neck and removed a loose white thread. The gesture was slow, almost tender, and completely at odds with her voice. From now on, no one touches you without my permission. You do not own me. No. Seraphina let the thread fall. But tonight, your life is inside my territory. The only room Elena considered secure enough was Seraphina's bedroom. It had reinforced walls, bulletproof glass, and a hidden path. It also had one bed, a couch too short for either woman, and a door with no lock on Mira's. Seraphina removed the pistol strapped to her thigh and set it inside a wall safe. Then, she began taking off the white suit Mira had just removed. You sleep here tonight, she said. I'll sleep on the floor. No, then you sleep on the floor. Seraphina paused, with the jacket, halfway down her arm. For the first time that night, she looked less like a queen receiving defiance and more like a woman confronted by a problem she could not solve with an order. The steel door closed behind them. On the bedside table, Seraphina's secure phone lit up. Elena's voice came through the speaker. We reached the theater. Nico isn't there. Mira's heart turned cold. Then Elena added, but neither are Catalano's men. He left us a message in the sound booth. What message? Mira asked. A recording played. Nico's voice was breathless but steady. Mira, I took the old service corridor. I'm safe for now. And that woman from the apartment took grandmother's silver needle box. Seraphina looked at Mira across the single bed. Whatever Lucia Bellandi had buried with her old name, Octavia Catalano had just declared war to. Chapter 2. One bed. Two liars. Mira laid 3 pillows down the center of Seraphina's bed. A border? Seraphina asked. An agreement. Seraphina stood beside the wardrobe, while Elena changed the dressing on her wound. Without the white suit, she wore black trousers and a thin undershirt. Scars crossed one side of her ribs, older and rougher than the fresh cut. Mira kept her attention on Seraphina's face. You don't touch me while I'm asleep, she said. You return my phone when security finishes checking it. And Nico goes somewhere safe that he chooses. The first 2 are acceptable. The third is not optional. The third requires finding him. Mira folded her arm. Then find him. Seraphina dismissed Elena and opened a drawer. She handed Mira a. You cannot sleep in clothing covered in blood and glass. The shirt reached the middle of Mira's. She changed in the bathroom, then emerged to find Seraphina standing beside the bed with her back to. Mira noticed the restraint. More importantly, she noticed how Seraphina's gaze moved away a second too late when she turned around. Desire, Mira realized, was a kind of vulnerability. Not enough to free her. Enough to matter. Seraphina lay on one side of the bed. Your brother used a service tunnel beneath the Bellavena theater. He reached a friend's apartment 20 minutes ago. You knew? I received confirmation while you were changing. And waited to tell me? I wanted certainty. You wanted control of the moment. Seraphina's expression hardened, but she did not deny it. Mira climbed onto the opposite side of the bed and stayed above the. If you want my cooperation, stop treating information like a reward for obedience. Information can kill, so can ignorance. The fresh bandage beneath Seraphina's shirt darkened at once. Mira swore softly and went to retrieve her medical. You could let Elena do that, Seraphina said. Elena pulled the closure too tight. She has patched bullet wounds, and I make my living understanding tension. Mira knelt on the mattress and loosened the dressing. Seraphina's breathing remained even until Mira's fingers brushed an old scar beneath her ribs. The woman went rigid. This one wasn't from tonight, Mira said. No. Tell me if it hurts. It doesn't. Then, why are you holding my hip? Seraphina looked. Her hand had closed around Mira without either of them acknowledging it. She released her immediately. My sister died the night I received that. I was 17. I held a security door open because she was behind me. What happened? I held it too long. The answer was delivered without emotion, which made the grief inside it easier to hear. Mira taped the new bandage. That explains why you lock doors. It doesn't excuse locking people behind them. Seraphina's eyes met her. You believe explanation and forgiveness are different things. They usually are. A knock came at the door. Elena entered with a tablet. Camera footage showed Octavia Catalano leaving the Bellandi apartment with a rectangular silver box. At the same time, a gray sedan stopped outside the apartment where Nico had hidden. Mira studied the map. The driver expects him to use the street, she said. There's an old corridor between the apartment block and the theater's costume warehouse. The entrance is behind a false panel in the boiler room. Elena zoomed in on the building. It isn't marked. Nico works in the theater. He showed it to me when the landlord threatened to raise our rent and we considered moving there. Seraphina turned to Elena. Send a team through the warehouse. No Russo vehicles. Mira caught her. Nico won't trust armed strangers. What will he trust? Tell them to say the blue curtain drops on 4, not 3. Elena lifted an eyebrow. It's a complaint he makes every time I watch a rehearsal. 20 minutes later, Nico appeared on a secure video. His hair was disordered and his face pale, but he was unhurt. "You brought the Mafia into this?" he demanded. "The Mafia brought itself." He looked towards someone beyond his camera. "They want to move me to a Russo estate." "No," Mira said. Seraphina turned to her. Mira continued, "Choose somewhere independent. A hotel, a friend's place, whatever you can secure without telling me the address. I don't want anyone using me to find you." Nico's angry. "What about you?" "I'm safe. That room behind you has steel walls." "Nico, don't trade your freedom for mine." The words struck more sharply because Seraphina heard them. Nico chose an apartment owned by one of his theater professors, and Russo guards secured the outside perimeter without entering. Mira made Elena repeat the address-sharing rules aloud before ending the call. Seraphina studied her. "What? You negotiate even when you're terrified." "I negotiate because I'm terrified." By morning, Elena had recovered the box Octavia left in an abandoned car. It was a replica. Inside lay no silver needles, only a strip of black fabric embroidered in white. "Bring the heir to the 5 families' guide. I will return what belongs to her." Seraphina wanted Mira confined immediately. Mira wanted answers. Their argument moved from the bedroom to Russo's underground archive, where shelves of contracts, garments, and locked cases stretched into the gloom. Seraphina opened one glass cabinet and removed a folded mourning cloth. Crescent shapes ran along its border. "My grandmother taught me these patterns," Mira whispered. "Can you read them?" Mira examined the order appeared meaningless until she imagined one of Lucia's slender needles passing beneath the line. Then the shapes shifted in her mind. "Do not trust the keeper of the cloth." A warning. Perhaps against Seraphina. Perhaps against Russo. Perhaps against anyone who believed possession made them an owner. Mira folded the cloth. "No," she lied. "Not without the needles." Seraphina watched her too closely. "You hesitated. I recognized the method, not the meaning. It was the first deliberate lie," Mira told. Judging by Seraphina's stillness, it was not the first lie between them. "Then we attend the gala," Mira said. "No, your refusal doesn't change the invitation. It changes whether you walk into a room filled with people who profit from your death. If I stay hidden, they decide what Marino means without me. You are not prepared. Then give me the records and prepare me." Seraphina turned away. "You do not understand what you are asking. I'm asking for 4 things. Nico stays where he chooses. I receive every Marino record you possess. I leave when this immediate threat ends. And you never sign, vote, transfer, or promise anything using my identity. The danger will not end on a date of your choosing. Protection without an end date is imprisonment with better furniture." Seraphina said nothing, for so long that Mira heard the faint hum of the archive's climate system. Then she summoned Elena. A written agreement was prepared. Seraphina amended the 3rd clause to state that Mira could leave once she had been informed of the active risks and acknowledged them in writing. Mira accepted. Elena witnessed both signatures. When Mira returned to the bedroom that night, the pillows still divided the bed. She lay on one edge, facing the wall. Seraphina lay on the other. "If surrendering me protected Russo," Mira asked into the darkness, "would you do it?" Seraphina did not answer immediately. "I do not yet know whether you are my ally, my threat, or my mistake. But I do not surrender anyone sleeping beneath my roof." Footsteps sounded. Seraphina moved with startling speed, pulling Mira against her with one arm while reaching beneath the pillow for a narrow. The door opened. Elena stopped on the threshold. "Guard shift." The new man used the wrong cord. "He has been removed." Seraphina lowered the knife. Mira remained against her chest, listening to a heartbeat much faster than the woman's face ever allowed. "Are you holding me like this for protection?" Mira asked. "Not entirely." Seraphina's breath warmed her temple. Mira turned. Neither woman retreated. Seraphina lowered her face, then stopped before their mouths met. The restraint felt deliberate and difficult. A phone vibrated on the table. Elena had sent the guest list for the gala. Every leader of Bellavena's underworld. One name had been added over. Mira Marino final heir. Mira stared at the screen. Her existence was no longer a secret Seraphina could protect or contain. It was a challenge delivered to the entire. Chapter 3. The Mafia Queen's false lover Mira refused the red gown. It makes you visible, Seraphina said. I'm already the reason half the council is attending. The dress lay across a table in Russo's fitting room, its silk bright as arterial blood. Mira chose a black gown instead and altered it herself. She changed the slit so she could move freely, reinforced the bodice, and stitched a small crescent inside the. A thin piece of sharpened metal disappeared into the seam at her. Seraphina walked. The gala forbids weapons. It forbids objects its guards recognize as weapons. You are learning. I'm adapting. Seraphina lifted a black stone necklace from its case. If you enter as an unprotected witness, she said, the council may detain you. If you enter as my guest, they will treat you as property. And if I enter as your lover, touching you becomes a public insult against Russo. Mira studied the necklace. A disguise or a collar? A warning. For them or for me? Tonight, I haven't decided. Mira turned away so Seraphina could fasten it. The woman's fingers brushed the back of her neck. A faint click came from the clasp. Tracking device, Mira said. Seraphina's hands stilled. You could have asked me to wear one. You might have refused. That is what asking risks. Seraphina met her gaze. It tracks your location and pulse. No audio. After a moment, Mira nodded. It stays. She established one other rule. Whenever their performance required Seraphina to touch her, Seraphina would tap twice against Mira's wrist. The Five Families Gala occupied the upper floor of Adriana Vale's. Crystal lights hung above dark marble. Musicians played in a gallery, while politicians, bankers, and family representatives smiled at people they would gladly ruin by morning. Conversation faded when Seraphina entered. Mira walked at her side. Octavia Catalano waited at the head. Her gray hair was swept back from a face shaped by elegant contempt. The black ring from Mira's apartment gleamed on her head. You resemble Lucia, Octavia. Mira stopped before her. You broke into my home. I used a key. Burglars often do. One corner of Octavia's mouth lit. A chair for Mira had been placed half a step behind Sarah. Mira moved it forward until they sat level. Several guests noticed. Seraphina noticed everyone. Dinner passed in a current of veiled threat. Mira listened more than. Clothing told truths its owners concealed. One family leader wore a fresh ink mark beneath his cuff, the residue of a forged. Another had Catalano buttons sewn onto a coat made by a waiter approached with 2 glasses. The fall of his sleeve revealed red thread at the cuff, the same shade Mira had removed from Seraphina's. Mira touched Seraphina's wrist twice, using their signal in reverse. Don't drink, she murmured. Seraphina changed nothing in her expression. She raised the glass, then deliberately set it beside Octavia's. A toast, she said. You first. Octavia looked at the. The waiter fled. Elena caught him before he reached the service doors. No poison was found, but the glasses had been switched. Seraphina's contained a sedative strong enough to make her collapse before the council. You saw the thread, Seraphina said when the musicians drowned their. I see bad tailoring. You saved me. Try not to sound surprised. A woman in silver approached the table. Adriana Vale was 30, beautiful, and dressed with the confidence of someone who knew every secret in the room had passed through her auction house at least once. Miss Bellandi, she said. You restored a 19th century mourning dress for me 2 years ago. You paid 6 months late. I paid interest. You called it a courtesy. Adriana smiled. Dance with me. I may know where your needle box is. Mira. On the floor, Adriana's hand rested lightly against her. Seraphina has made you impressive, Adriana said. I was impressive before meeting her. Better. Russo is not the only door available to you. What do you want? Access to merino relics when they return to the market. And if I refuse, dinner sometime. Adriana's attraction seemed genuine. So did her appetite for profit. Mira continued dancing because both could be useful. Seraphina reached them before the music. Her jaw was tight enough to show anger only to someone standing close. She tapped twice against Mira's wrist. May I? She asked. Adriana released Mira with a knowing smile. She came with me, Seraphina said. Mira allowed Seraphina's hand to settle at. Coming with you does not mean belonging to you. She wants something. At least she admits it. Seraphina led with exact control. Mira followed for 3 measures, then shifted the rhythm and forced Seraphina into a turn. A murmur moved around. To observers, the reversal looked flirtatious. More felt Seraphina's surprise, then the fierce pleasure with which she accepted the challenge. You enjoy provoking me, Seraphina said. I enjoy proving you can adjust. You are testing the edge of my patience. You're jealous. I am assessing a threat. To the council? To my restraint. Seraphina tapped twice and guided her onto a balcony. Cold air swept in from the harbor. Beyond the rail, Bellavena shone with white towers and dark water. You danced with her to obtain information, Seraphina. I danced with her because I chose to. Choice without understanding is recklessness, and protection without trust is another cage. Seraphina stepped closer. Do you think I don't know that every person in that room watched your mouth when you spoke? That they measured the distance between us and wondered how much of Russo they could reach through you. I am not a path to your throne. No, Seraphina's voice dropped. You are the first thing that has made me consider stepping away from it. The confession silenced me. Seraphina touched her wrist twice. Mira lifted her. Their mouths were almost close enough to meet when Seraphina looked past. A lens flashed in a building across the avenue. She moved away. Photographer, she said. A public kiss would mark you as my weakness and give Octavia grounds to challenge my vote. Mira's disappointment arrived before reason could. Seraphina saw that too. I am not rejecting you. You haven't asked for me. Not yet. Octavia found Mira alone in an exhibition corridor. 10 minutes later, behind glass stood mourning jewelry and ceremonial coats from dead families. You wear Lucia's stitch, Octavia. My grandmother's name was Bellandi, after Marino became a death sentence. Mira's breathing. Octavia removed a silver needle. Tiny marks ran along its length. Lucia Marino was keeper of the archive. Your parents died because they tried to protect what she carried away. The fire was not an accident. Octavia placed the needle in Mira's palm. The remaining needles will go to whoever proves herself Marino before the council. Perhaps that will be you. Perhaps it will be the person clever enough to use your blood. Why tell me? Because Seraphina Russo will bury you beneath protection before she allows the past to threaten her throne. On the return journey, the Russo convoy changed routes. It did not matter. A vehicle struck the rear car at the mouth of a gunfire cracked against reinforced. Seraphina pushed Mira down and issued 2 short commands into her cuff. Mira saw one of the Russo guards open the side door. A strand of red thread clung to his sleeve. He's theirs, she shouted. Elena turned into. The guard fled into a service passage before he could unlock the armored vehicle. The convoy escaped, but the message was clear. Catalano had reached deep inside Russo. Back at the estate, Seraphina ordered Mira returned to the secure bedroom. Mira refused. I will not be carried from cage to cage. Teach me how this city works. No. Then I'll ask Adriana. Seraphina's face became dangerously calm. Mira went to the archive. She placed Octavia's silver needle beneath the mourning cloth. The markings on the needle determined where her eyes moved down 3 stitches, across 5, backward beneath. Words emerged from decoration. Russo opened the gate on the night Marino died. Mira read the line twice. Then she heard Seraphina enter. For the first time, the danger Mira felt in the room had nothing to do with. Chapter 4. Teach me how to make them kneel. Do not teach your guards how to hold me, Mira said. Teach me how to make them afraid to try. She tore Seraphina's new room assignment order in half and dropped it onto the desk. Then she placed a knife beside it. 10 days remained before the council hearing at which her identity would be challenged. Seraphina regarded the knife. You think 10 days can turn you into a leader? No. But it can make me harder to silence. You will follow security protocols. I'll obey what you explain. Not blind commands. A long pause followed. Training begins now, Seraphina. The first lesson took place in a negotiation, not a weapons room. A Russo-owned tailoring house had withheld payment from 12 seamstresses after a wealthy client changed an order. Seraphina brought Mira to the meeting and let the manager explain for 6 full minutes why the workers should absorb the. When he finished, Mira remained silent. The manager filled it with excuses. She stayed silent longer. His confidence weakened. He offered half the payment. Mira looked at the 12 women behind. Full payment, plus the overtime spent repairing the client's error. That is impossible. Mira touched the unfinished jacket on the table. The sleeve pitch is wrong. Your client's photographs will show wrinkling before she reaches the ball. These women know how to fix it. You don't. The manager agreed. Outside, Seraphina said, "You found the weakness. I found the people he needed and pretended not to. That distinction may make you better than us. Or more dangerous." Seraphina's gaze warmed. That too. She taught Mira how to read an armed person by the fall of a coat, how to refuse questions that concealed traps, and how to let an opponent underestimate silence. Elena taught her to escape a wrist hold. Mira failed repeatedly because she fought strength with strength. On the 4th day, Seraphina took Elena's place. Again, Seraphina said. Mira seized the belt hanging from the cutting table, looped it over Seraphina's wrist, and used the woman's own momentum to pin her hand against the wood. Their bodies met at the edge of the table. Seraphina could have escaped. Mira saw the calculation in her eyes. She chose not to. "Do you enjoy seeing me beneath you?" Seraphina asked. "I enjoy knowing you can be held too." Mira released the belt. The lesson continued in the fitting room. Mira had altered a black suit for the hearing, broadening the shoulders and narrowing the. Seraphina stood behind her and tied a black silk necktie beneath her collar. Her fingers lost their precision for the first time. Mira watched her in the mirror. "You wear white when you intend to challenge someone. My sister made my first white suit." The words arrived without warning. She said black made me look like I wanted to disappear into the family. White forced people to see where I stood. "Do you still have it?" "No." It was covered in her blood. Mira turned. Seraphina's hands fell away from. Grief changed her without making her smaller. Mira understood then that Seraphina's control was not emptiness. It was scaffolding built around a ruin. Understanding was not forgiveness, but it was intimacy. Seraphina stepped closer and stopped. She did not touch. Mira looked at the woman's mouth, then caught the tie and pulled her down. Their first kiss was neither gentle nor caring. It carried the pressure of every interrupted moment since the dressing room, the hand at Mira's hip, the single bed, the balcony, the things both women had wanted and refused to name. Seraphina's hand settled at Mira's. The kiss deepened. For one dangerous instant, Mira felt Seraphina begin to claim the rhythm. Mira pulled back. "That is enough for today." Seraphina's breathing was uneven. Displeasure flashed across her face, followed by restraint. "As you wish. One kiss does not erase our agreement." "No." Seraphina straightened the tie Mira had. "It only makes the agreement harder to read." That night, Mira returned to the morning clock. The silver needle revealed 3 columns of names: those who ordered the Marino massacre, those who carried it out, and those who remained silent in exchange for advantage. Octavia Catalano appeared in the first column. Isabella Russo appeared in the third. Beside her name was the symbol of an open East. Mira looked at Seraphina. The woman showed shock, but not enough. "You knew," I suspected. "You recognized the stitch the first night. My mother used it in a mourning coat. Where is the coat? The evidence is incomplete. Where? The dead should not be condemned by one fragment, but the living can be imprisoned because you have incomplete suspicions?" Seraphina folded the cloth. "We will discuss this when we know more." Mira heard the dismissal inside the sentence. Later, passing the archive, she saw Seraphina carry an old black coat through a locked records room door. Crescent stitches marked its. Mira did not break. She decided to ask the next morning. Trust, if it was to exist, deserved one honest attempt. Before dawn, her phone received an audio file from Octavia. "Ask your lover," Octavia's recorded voice said, how many years she has slept beside her mother's confession. Mira went to the archive. Her hand rested on the locked door. Behind her, Seraphina said, "If you open that door, we cannot return to what we were." Mira faced her. "We never had a before built on truth.